Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the devastating earthquake in Colombia and the race to find survivors under mountains of rubble. Dozens of people were killed and the death toll is expected to rise. Countless videos show the moment the magnitude 7.4 quake violently shook buildings in the western part of the country, about 250 miles from Bogota. President Trump signs an executive order that overhauls the childhood vaccine schedule, reducing recommended childhood vaccines from 18 to 11 and likely creating more confusion for parents. We explain the changes. Here at home, the salmonella outbreak spreads to at least 27 states, with major grocery stores pulling products made with potentially contaminated jalapenos. Hundreds of people have already been sickened. Also breaking tonight, the severe storms with flash flooding and damaging winds now stretching from Chicago to Philadelphia to New York, and the wildfire danger now in 15 states, with nearly 100 large fires currently burning. The growing water crisis in Puerto Rico. Severe drought has forced water shutoffs to 180,000 customers as reservoirs run low.
I'm Victor Oquendo in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where homes and businesses are rationing water.
WNBA players openly fight over the issue of transgender athletes playing in the league. It's merely a hypothetical, but two former NBA players are stoking the issue by declaring themselves eligible for WNBA draft. Emmy-nominated creator of the popular Tiger King docuseries, Eric Good, is here explaining his latest series, Monsters of God, which takes a first-hand look at the dark underbelly of smugglers who traffic in rare and exotic reptiles.
You really need to find a story, and you need to find interesting characters along the way to tell that story.
Also with us in studio, the Grammy-nominated R&B group Flow, on the magic behind their songs, their videos, and their moves.
We love our job, and making music together is so beautiful.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin with that deadly earthquake in Colombia and the urgent rescue operation underway tonight. This social media video captured the moment the 7.4 magnitude trembler hit, people screaming as pieces of the building begin to fall. We see the lamppost swaying violently, then the four-story building comes crashing down. More than 100 miles away in Cali, here's the chaotic scene as portions of a hospital fall, crashing into ambulances parked below, bystanders racing for cover. Tonight, Colombia's president has declared a national disaster. The country is reporting more than 100 deaths, and that number is expected to grow. The quake hit in the western part of the country, about 250 miles from Bogota. It caused damage as far away as neighboring Ecuador and Panama. Emergency crews and volunteers are now searching through mountains of rubble, some digging by hand, desperately searching for survivors. The U.S. is now offering aid to Colombia. Let's get right to ABC's Trevor Ault, who leads us off.
Tonight, a devastating earthquake rocking Colombia. Collapsing buildings, trapping people under rubble, and killing more than 100 people. Officials say it's the most powerful quake to hit the country in a decade. Screams of horror in the streets, the ground shaking violently. Entire apartment buildings splitting open, collapsing into plumes of dust. Terrified crowds racing to escape the falling debris. These men taking cover at an airport, waiting desperately for the shaking to stop. Part of the ceiling falling just feet away. At this hospital, debris raining down on ambulances. This family escaping moments before parts of their home started crumbling. City of Manizales, one of the hardest hit, this historic neo-Gothic cathedral suffering major damage, pieces of the spires falling to the ground. Maria Camila and her dog racing to escape her apartment, not even time to put on her shoes, the walls cracking around her, the foundation buckling. Tonight, officials say several young children are among the dead, and the death toll is expected to rise higher. The injured lining the streets as medics treat wounds outside, some on stretchers. The 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck this morning in the remote Choco region of western Colombia. More than 1,600 homes and buildings damaged or destroyed. Multiple aftershocks rocked the region as well. In the city of Cali, where at least 19 buildings collapsed, rescuers using their bare hands and buckets, scooping debris, refusing to stop digging.
We're desperately hoping to find more survivors. Trevor All joins us now. And Trevor, as we just saw there in your report, search and recovery efforts are underway there tonight. What kind of challenges will those crews be facing?
Yeah, Lindsay, frankly, this is going to be extremely challenging because of how widespread all the damage this is, and also because the dangers are still ongoing. When you're talking about dozens of collapsed buildings and countless people that are still missing, but we're also hearing from hospitals who say a part of one of their wings collapsed in this quake. Plus, you have a lot of community centers and roads that have also been heavily damaged. It makes travel and lodging also extremely difficult. And as people are searching through all of these precarious piles of rubble, you have the ongoing threat of even more aftershocks. Lindsay.
All right, Trevor Ault for us. Thanks so much, Trevor. Severe storms blowing across the Midwest to the Northeast today. In Baltimore, the air traffic control tower had to be evacuated because of a severe storm. In Columbus, Ohio, a lightning strike is being blamed for starting a fire that destroyed a church. And in the West, nearly 100 large wildfires are burning across 15 states. Our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, is tracking it all.
Tonight, powerful storms on the move, rocking the Northeast with damaging winds, rain, and lightning. Storms rolling into Washington, D.C. Baltimore-Washington Airport forced to evacuate an air traffic control tower late today. Listen.
Fortunately, got some bad news for you. The BWI tower had to evacuate for a tornado warning.
Fans ushered inside Baltimore's M&T Bank Stadium because of a tornado warning, just before the K-pop superstars BTS were set to perform. In Columbus, Ohio, firefighters battled an early morning fire at a church sparked by lightning. Daylight revealing the destruction, the church gutted. Sunday night, southwest of Chicago, severe storms rolled multiple train cars off their tracks in the town of Ransom, Illinois, and destroyed this barn. Heat-fueled, scattered thunderstorms slammed the Northeast throughout the weekend, from New York City to Springfield, Massachusetts, where an apparent microburst collapsed this building. A golfer taking shelter on a golf course in Cincinnati nearly killed by a lightning strike Friday. Telling ABC News he lost all feeling in his body temporarily. High temperatures and dry, gusty winds exacerbating multiple major wildfires. British Columbia now under a state of emergency, with tens of thousands evacuated and at least one person dead. On the California-Nevada state line, the bug fire burning 17,000 acres and still out of control.
Ginger joins us now. Ginger, we know that we've had these incredibly warm temperatures across July. Any respite in sight in August?
Well, it looks like NOAA just confirmed that July for the lower 48 was the hottest month on record. And those records go back to the late 1800s. This was mostly driven by very warm overnight lows, by the way. And unfortunately, the heat is still on. It's just moving. And I'll show you that coming up. But let's go ahead and look at what's going to happen here tonight. Heat and humidity has been fueling those thunderstorms throughout the weekend. They did it tonight. We saw some rip through here, very strong storms. But now it's Cape May through Salisbury, Maryland, Rehoboth Beach, down to Virginia Beach. That line, just to your west, has very strong to severe storms, like several warnings in it, and we've already seen embedded tornado warnings, so please watch that one. There's still action happening in West Virginia and southern Ohio, too. Then tomorrow, some of the same areas that got hit today and on Sunday, going to get hit again. Chicago, especially on the south side, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus. This line, it's called a mesoscale convective system. It's this complex of storms that's going to rip across. It could easily have 75-mile-per-hour gusts with it, but also embedded tornadoes and some big hail. That's for your Tuesday. Now, on Tuesday as well, that heat will be moving. Las Vegas ending their 12-day-in-a-row stretch of extreme heat warnings. And now we look at St. Louis with an extreme heat warning, but that's about feels likes, the humidity that could make it feel like 110. Some of those numbers, though, stay in the 90s. Oklahoma City right around 100. Denver could break a daily record tomorrow at 98. So the heat just slightly moving, and that's good news for some of the fire areas that have been torched as of late. Lindsay.
They certainly need that break. All right, Ginger, thank you. Turning now to the expanding impact of that major salmonella outbreak, first reported in jalapeno peppers. Large retailers like Trader Joe's, Walmart, and Whole Foods are now pulling various salsas and dips off of their shelves in 26 states after the distributor issued a widespread recall over contamination concerns. Elizabeth Schulze has those details.
Tonight, some of the country's biggest grocery stores are recalling dozens of products with jalapenos over fears of a growing salmonella outbreak. Walmart, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and Target are now pulling affected guacamole, dips, and salsa from store shelves. Kroger, Albertsons, H-E-B, and Walmart also recalling some meat and poultry products with jalapenos like wraps, burritos, and enchiladas.
Very often these outbreaks and recalls do have a tendency to creep as we find they're associated with more and different food products.
The FDA says 345 people have been sickened from a salmonella outbreak across 27 states. Most of those people reported eating jalapenos at Chipotle and Qdoba. Health officials have traced the outbreak to jalapenos from Coast Citrus distributors sourced from Mexico. A large supply of the peppers are used by Taylor Farms to make prepared foods sold to grocery stores. Taylor Farms is the same company linked to the deadly cyclosporiasis outbreak from lettuce sourced from a different grower in Mexico. Taylor has recalled products with jalapenos in 26 states, but says it's not aware of any illness linked to those items. Tonight, many consumers are just trying to keep up with the recalls.
Just keeping on top of all the recalls and knowing, what I need to throw out.
It's confusing.
It is, yes.
It is a lot to take in. Elizabeth Schulte joins us now. So, Elizabeth, what's the best way for people to keep track of all these recalls?
Yeah, Lindsay, it is so confusing. A lot of people feeling that when they go into the store. For everyone trying to keep track of the recalls to see if they are in stores in your state, we have an updated list of the products and the retailers on our website. Lindsay.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Elizabeth. There is new confusion over vaccines after President Trump signed an executive order today reducing the number of recommended childhood vaccines from 18 to 11, what the president claimed, and the pushback from a key Republican senator who's also a doctor who said, quote, "This is so wrong." Here's Mary Bruce from the White House.
With the stroke of a pen, President Trump calling for fewer childhood vaccines, creating new questions tonight for parents across the country.
It is essential to our research efforts that we have the very best vaccine recommendations in the entire world, so we're reducing them.
The White House now calling for children to get vaccinated against 11 diseases, down from the 18 diseases previously recommended by the CDC. Key to the president's plan, splitting the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine into 3 separate shots, even though individual shots are currently not available in the U.S. Trump claiming without evidence that the current combined vaccine is harmful and could be linked to autism.
Together, there could be a possibility they're quite lethal, and separately, it looks like they are not at all lethal, but just very effective.
Our Stephen Portnoy pressing the president, where's the science to back that up?
Is there any evidence of that?
What I've heard is that there are some people that say it is that way. And I say, well, let's say there's a 5% chance of it. Let's split it up.
Tonight, a leading Republican Senator, Bill Cassidy, who's also a doctor, openly rebuking the president, calling the decision so wrong, saying, "I'm a doctor. This executive order is wrong. The president does not have the expertise to make these changes. Vaccines are overwhelmingly safe. Vaccines are effective. Vaccines do not cause autism. Breaking up vaccines will mean children have to get more shots to get the same protection, not fewer shots. It will increase hesitancy and make children less safe. Parents should listen to their child's pediatrician about vaccines rather than listening to an inaccurate executive order. This is so wrong." Tonight, the American Academy of Pediatrics blasting the president's recommendations, saying they are not justified by science and that children will suffer.
For a child to end up in an ICU that doesn't need to be in the ICU, there is nothing more terrifying for a family, and there is nothing more tragic for a child or a family.
Yes, certainly not an experience that any parent wants to endure. Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. And Mary, in other news, we know that the president also talked about the war against Iran and the war between Israel and Hamas. What did he have to say about that?
Hey, Lindsay, the president is pushing back against Iran's sweeping new demands, rejecting their calls for reparations. He says instead that Iran should be paying back the U.S. President Trump is also responding to Israel's rejection of his new plan for Hamas to disarm. The president still insisting to me, though, that his relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu is, quote, very good.
Lindsay. All right, Mary Bruce for us. Thanks so much, Mary. For more perspective on the stalemate with Iran, we're joined by Iran expert and executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, Trita Parsi. Trita, thank you so much for joining us. Iran has laid out its demands for the U.S. in order to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. How did this conflict get to the point where Iran is now demanding concessions from the United States?
Well, this war should not have been started in the first place. That was the ultimate mistake. And it was done in a manner in which was expected to be over with within 4 days. And here we are several months later. And not only do we have a stalemate, we have a stalemate that actually is hurting the U.S., arguably more so than is hurting the Iranians. I do think, however, that the Iranians are not making those demands to open up the strait. I think those are demands that are being made for a direct U.S.-Iran negotiation to resume, which has not been the case so far. Officially, the talks are between Iran and Oman right now. But I think it is reflective of the fact that failed military actions and this constant investment in thinking that through military actions, the tables can be turned has only made matters worse. Now the Iranians are in a stronger position and are making demands that reflect that reality.
At this point, is there any possibility of going back to the pre-war conditions of free passage through the strait?
I think there is a way to get to a situation in which there is free passage in the sense that all ships can pass. But I do think it will be with some form of a management service fee that will be collected by the Iranians and the Omanis or some sort of a configuration of that. I think it's extremely difficult to get back to the exact same situation that existed before. But I think it's also important to keep in mind what the ultimate U.S. interest here is. Traditionally, in these type of situations, the U.S.'s interest has been to make sure that there is a free and non-discriminatory and stable flow of commerce, not necessarily who is controlling a specific waterway. So if we can achieve that primary objective, then that is frankly good enough. The secondary objective of making sure that a hostile power is not in control or managing it is only there to serve the primary objective. But if we can get a deal that achieves that primary objective, that is good enough.
The president's rhetoric on Iran keeps changing. Last week, he was still threatening deadly escalation, talking about decapitation, but then he told Axios this weekend that he is, quote, low-keying it with Iran and implied that he might be willing to sit back and watch the economic pressures Iran is facing internally play out. What might be the president's strategy here?
I think, frankly, it's really difficult to discern that there is any real strategy. I think there's a bunch of tactical moves that are being put together, but not any real strategy. Unfortunately, that's part of the reason why the country is in this dire situation and this debacle at this point. I do think ultimately there is no other way out of this than a negotiated settlement. We're already seeing how Trump has tried various military moves at this point. None of them are working. The only thing that could work is if we have a complete investment in diplomacy, and that requires a lot of patience, which is not something the president is known for.
You've also written extensively about Israel. Yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. What options does the president have now?
Well, that is a different issue in which the president actually does have a lot of options. What is really fascinating here is that the Trump administration is not trying to hide the fact that it is Netanyahu who is rejecting the peace plan. In previous eras, whenever the Israelis were rejecting a peace plan, the administration went out of its way, tried to shift the blame to Hamas or to some other entity. So the mere fact that this is actually happening in a more open, transparent way, I think in and of itself is noteworthy. It is not in any way, shape, or form a sign that we're closer to a solution. But ultimately, the Israelis cannot continue to do what they're doing in Gaza without America's support. So the United States does have a tremendous amount of leverage. The question is the president willing to use it?
Trita Parsi, we thank you so much for your time and insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ohio Republican Congressman Max Miller says he's staying in his re-election race despite abuse allegations against him. Miller's ex-wife has accused him of holding a gun to her head, throwing hot water on her, and throwing her against a wall. She also says Miller broke their daughter's collarbone. Today was the deadline for Ohio State Republicans to name a replacement nominee, but they could have only done that if Miller had withdrawn from the race over the weekend. Miller denies all of the allegations. Now to the growing water crisis in Puerto Rico. After their driest month in 120 years, hundreds of thousands of people are now forced to go without running water for days at a time. The issue is further compounded by the island's aging infrastructure. The federal government is now stepping in to help. ABC's Victor Oquendo is on the ground there in Puerto Rico and has that story.
Lindsay, there is an extreme drought here, but it is being made so much worse by poor infrastructure. More on that in a moment. We have driven across much of the island outside of San Juan, and we have seen water tanks like this everywhere. So water is available if it is not running at home, but we are talking about hundreds of thousands of people going without running water 48 hours at a time. Puerto Rico's governor has declared a state of emergency, and we've now learned that FEMA is providing water trailers to the U.S. territory for an initial period of 30 days. The island facing a crippling drought compounded by poor infrastructure. The current water system is failing, it is old, and it has not been maintained well. Many of the pipes are leaking or broken. Water levels at the Carraízo Reservoir, critical to San Juan, dangerously low, and unfortunately, Lindsay, there is no end in sight.
All right, that crisis continues. Victor, thank you. A boat operator is now facing federal charges for a deadly accident that killed a mother and her 5-month-old baby over the weekend. Tonight, we're learning new details about what the captain was doing when the overcrowded boat capsized near the Statue of Liberty. Here's ABC's Matt Rivers.
A tour operator and boat captain is facing 2 federal charges tonight after a weekend tragedy near the Statue of Liberty killed a young mother and her infant daughter.
Rescue boats are now on site. They're saying the baby might be underneath the boat.
Investigators charging 46-year-old Manuel Hernandez with 2 counts of misconduct and neglect of ship officer resulting in death. Hernandez was piloting a boat in a, quote, dangerous manner in what officials say was an illegal charter late Saturday night. Just after 10 p.m., the 22-foot Yamaha AR-210 was speeding down the East River and into the New York harbor when a wake swamped the boat, flipping it. 14 people celebrating a birthday were on board, including 27-year-old Sarah Sanchez and her 5-month-old daughter, Antonella Garcia.
People were just speaking that there was a mother and a child that needs to be rescued from the water.
The U.S. Coast Guard, rescue helicopters, and divers searching the waters. Sanchez and Garcia found, but later died at the hospital. 12 others on board the boat were also rescued, none seriously injured. That boat pulled out of the water. Investigators say the boat was carrying more passengers than allowed and had no infant life vests on board.
Just a horrible story there. Our thanks to Matt Rivers. Coming up, what you need to know is the trial for the only man ever charged for the infamous 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur gets underway. We talk with the journalist who interviewed the legendary rapper and icon more than any other writer. It's been more than 3 months and still no winner. How much is at stake in tonight's Powerball drawing? And later, the long-lost piece of mail one man is calling a postcard from heaven. Jury selection began today for the only man ever charged for the infamous 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the 63-year-old former gang leader, is accused of orchestrating the fatal drive-by shooting of the rap icon. Davis was arrested in 2023 for Shakur's murder and pleaded not guilty. ABC's Alex Stone joins us now with the latest. So, Alex, what can you tell us about how we got here and what unfolded in court today?
Yeah, so first of all, Lindsay, jury selection is now underway. It's likely going to go for several days. And today they did excuse some potential jurors, but they did not seat anybody today. That's going to be coming later on in the week as they work through it. But this goes back to September 1996 when Tupac Shakur was shot and killed in Las Vegas. And the focus during this trial is going to be on Dwayne Davis, the alleged shot caller who prosecutors say ordered the murder of Shakur. And he's going on trial now, accused of being the one orchestrating all of this. He was a one-time LA gang leader, but prosecutors say this was a personal beef. Yeah, there were so many conspiracy theories and whatnot about the murder, but they say that he was angry because Shakur and Knight had roughed up his nephew in a hotel elevator. He spent years bragging about the murder publicly, even wrote a book about the murder. He had an immunity deal, but prosecutors say that was voided when he went public with his story and wrote the book. So now he's claiming everything in that book, what he told police, all of it was lies, and that he did it to sell books, and don't believe any of that. He's saying it was all a big lie. Prosecutors say no, he was telling the truth.
So what can we expect next in this trial?
Well, it's not going to be all that quick. So jury selection likely going to go most of this week. By Thursday or Friday, hopefully they're going to have a jury impaneled. Likely, it looks like opening statements early next week. And then the trial's probably going to go 5 to 6 weeks. So it could be mid to late September before there's a verdict if it goes by the schedule that's been put out there. There's talk of maybe 200 witnesses on the witness list, but we've all covered trials where they don't actually call all of those on the witness list. Likely will be nowhere near that, but it could go on for quite some time.
And 30 years after the fact at that. All right, Alex Stone, our thanks to you. And with more on all of this, let's bring in Kevin Powell. He's a Grammy-nominated poet and author. He interviewed Tupac more than any other journalist and was there in Vegas the day Tupac died. Kevin is currently writing a biography about the legendary rapper. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Just when you look back at this life that was taken 30 years ago, he was just 25 years old at the time. What did we lose with his passing?
Wow. Let me say this. When I was told that he died, I was in my hotel room in Vegas, literally watching Denzel Washington playing Malcolm X. And little did I know on that day in Vegas 30 years ago that he would become an iconic figure globally the way Malcolm X, Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, these figures that become larger than life. I knew he was important. When I saw him in Juice, I was blown away by his performance. In the first article I wrote for Vibe, I called him the James Dean of the hip-hop era. Little did I know he would have a short life like James Dean. But since he died, I've been all over this world. I've been all 50 states in this country, 5 to 7 continents, literally T-shirts, murals, recognition, organizations named after him everywhere you go. I mean, he's a larger-than-life figure. We need to understand that when we talk about his impact, it's like Bob Dylan. It's like, other musical icons where people celebrate and quote his lyrics all the time. Even with the stuff that is not so positive about him or things that were not so beautiful or pretty, people still find lessons in that. So it's a loss. I think about him every single day. I did interview him a lot. Ironically, when we first met, I was a fan of his. He had watched me on the first season of MTV's The Real World. Of course. That was the bond. That was the connection. He's like, I had your back. I was like, well, I was a fan of yours as well. And that was how the trust began. And I didn't think it was going to go on for 3 years, several cover stories, including a Rolling Stone cover story when he died, and having to write that story from Vegas, literally.
As we're looking at the trial taking place, again, 30 years after his passing, why has it taken so long? And do you feel that America has been asking the wrong question? Because is there a difference between who orchestrated the killing and who pulled the trigger?
Well, the thing about this trial that's interesting, the prosecution has admitted that it's not about the person being on trial being the person who pulled the trigger. It seems like they're trying to just say, here's the person who orchestrated it. A lot of it is involved, street culture where people don't want to talk. A lot of people have not been able to talk. Some folks feel that the police in both LA and Vegas botched this thing a long time ago and had nothing, or some people feel it's been a cover-up. Not just him, but also what happened to Notorious B.I.G. 6 months after Tupac. And then there's always the thing that we talked about back then when I was at Vibe magazine, Quincy Jones's Vibe magazine, this whole rivalry between East Coast, West Coast, Death Row Records, Bad Row Records, Suge Knight, Sean Diddy Combs. It's been a lot of craziness around this thing. And, even though this is not political, like who shot President Kennedy or Dr. King, in some ways it is like that because we've also been dealing with that all these years. Well, who really did it? Who's really responsible for this? And it seems like it's just something that keeps going on and on. I don't even know if we're going to get an answer here, but I do think a lot of fans are just happy that something's happening because it is 3 decades later. It's crazy.
But do you think that a courtroom will ever solve the mystery that has become kind of part of this pop culture lore?
Do I think so personally? No. I think that think about the fact that there were allegedly 4 people in the car where the bullets came from that killed Tupac Shakur. 3 of those people are dead, and only 2 people are alive who actually witnessed it, quote unquote, according to the prosecution. One is the person on trial, and the other person was Suge Knight, who was driving a car, who's now in jail in Southern California. So we don't know. We don't know who the witness is going to be yet. We have some speculation. We don't know what's going to be said. We don't know if this person, Keefe D, Mr. Davis, is going to testify or not.
Did you ever get the sense when you interviewed Tupac, Rikers Island, he at that point had already been shot. Did you get the sense that he felt that he was living on borrowed time?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's a question that's come up a lot for me, Lindsay. You know, I think there are people who are put here, like Tupac Shakur and other folks who were here for a particular period of time, a particular purpose. I mean, when you think about it, I remember, you know, when he was in prison, when I did the prison interview with him at Rikers Island, and we came back to Vibe magazine, and I was one of the first people to hear Dear Mama. They played it for us, and it's one of the most beautiful songs in pop music history. Forget hip hop, bigger than hip hop, you know. And I said, this is someone who has the ability to recognize the power and the beauty of women, including his mother. You know, someone who's been to write inspirational songs that keep your head up. But he's also written songs that were trashing Biggie Smalls. You know, there was this yin and yang with him. He was a Gemini, you know what I'm saying? And he had both sides going. But I don't, you know, I don't even know if he would have been, if he had lived, I believe that his real gift was his acting. I feel like he could have been on the level of a Denzel Washington, of a Sean Penn, someone like that. I think he was incredibly gifted. And the things that I've found out about people who really want to work with him as an actor as I write this book has been really incredible. I just think that we just don't know, you know, but I also think because he was so, he was a handsome man, he was very articulate and dynamic, charismatic. He could have gone in so many different directions, including politics possibly, because he definitely came from an activist tradition. His mother, Afeni Shakur, being a Black Panther. There's so many possibilities of who he could have been, and I think that's the real tragedy in all of this. No matter what is happening with this trial, what could have been with Tupac Shakur?
Just 15 seconds. What do you make of Suge Knight saying that he's not going to testify?
He's been saying that for a long time. You know, I'm not surprised. And I just think that I hope that someone will step forward who's willing to tell some semblance of the truth about what happened on that night in September 1996. People, including the family, first and foremost, the Shakur family, deserves to have some answers. And there should be some justice in this.
Kevin Powell, so appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Coming up, we speak with the creator of a new docuseries that explores the murky world of illegal reptile smuggling. And a man sets a record for tattooing himself while skydiving. We'll check out his new ink coming up. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. More than 100 people are dead after a 7.4 earthquake hit western Colombia today. Destruction has been reported in multiple cities, and the country's president has declared a national disaster. At least 61 buildings have collapsed. 1,600 homes have been damaged or destroyed. 7 airports have suspended service due to the damage. It was the strongest earthquake recorded in Colombia in more than a decade. Todd Blanche was sworn in today as the new Attorney General. The oath was administered this morning in the Oval Office with President Trump in attendance. Blanche was confirmed by the Senate in a 50-49 vote early Saturday morning. The nation's emergency oil reserves have fallen below 300 million barrels for the first time since 1983. The stockpile has been shrinking ever since President Trump authorized the release of 172 million barrels in March to combat high gas prices. Experts say the reserves will continue to dwindle for a few more weeks as the rest of the authorized release takes place. Tonight, one person could be $905 million richer. That's if someone matches the 5 winning numbers plus the Powerball. No one has hit the jackpot since May 2nd. That's 41 drawings in a row without a winner. The odds of winning are 1 in 292 million. Coming up, an investigation into homelessness on LA's Skid Row, 6 years in the making. We introduce you to a man with a relentless passion for his community. And a rare box of Nintendo games forgotten in a basement. Why didn't I save those games? The contents could be worth millions of dollars. The clues on the 30-year-old cartridges that let collectors know they struck gold. Welcome back, everyone. In 2020, more than 66,000 people experienced homelessness in Los Angeles County. 5,000 of them resided in Skid Row. Among them, a charismatic man named Mango, known as the unofficial mayor of Skid Row. Despite the drugs and overdoses that plague the area, Mango's passion for his community never wavered. For 6 years, ABC News Live followed Mango and documented the highs and lows in one of the more vulnerable areas in LA.
You don't know how nothing is until you live out here. It's ground zero. Everybody living in tents, people screaming and yelling, pissing on the streets. Hell, I was afraid when I first came here. When I first moved here, man, I was like, what the beep? the people that they're like in zombie land now, you know? Everybody know about Skid Row, but now they're gonna have a chance to know about Skid Row. Because you're gonna sit here and tell me the richest state there is, California has it, can be its own country. And you have this homeless problem here? And you'll see the love is missing here. But by being out here, I've changed.
Welcome to Mangoes, out here in Skid Row. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. It's kind of off a little bit. It's called The Loft at the Firehouse, Maples. Maple, because Maple is the name of the street that I live on. What it is, it's a Skid Row luxury tent community. Kind of put it up and put it up top there, because I stay up top there. So last night I put it together, more or less together. The top goes on it, but. Yeah.
Well, how do I mic through all of this, Mango?
I didn't know people was lost. I never knew others was lost, because I'm high-mighty. I'm living up there, like George and Wheezy. And I'm out here by choice, you know, and I ain't lose nothing. It's just, I'm here. I said, I want to go to LA. I want to go to downtown Los Angeles. Where's Los Angeles at? And I ride the bus from Las Vegas to here when I wake up, you know, because the bus is at nighttime. I wake up here and I'm thinking, y'all transported me someplace, man. Y'all teleport me some other place, you know. I've never experienced nothing like this in my life.
You can walk again.
There are people out here that we will see that need love. We all hurt them. I'm hurting.
You're welcome, thank you.
I heard the fact that I don't have nobody to be talking to sometime at nighttime, you know what I mean? You know, just me and God. I know he's like telling me, ringing on his phone. Hold on, I think he's calling me now. But just, it's just a love, man.
It may get a little hectic here. We may have to shut the cameras down. This is prime time now. Hold it down. I look at you and you know to film me. We'll just push your feet. This is the depths of Skid Row. Over here, we have the people here, you know, everybody does drugs. And I'm not saying that Skid Row is full of drug addicts. We're dealing with people on the mental health scale and issues, things like that. I try to have a one-on-one relationship with these people. People just, they come to me for this, to that. I have the gangsters, I have the drug dealers, from the drug dealers to the pimps, whores, prostitutes. I'm not out looking for no problems with no one. You know, I'm here to make your smile brighter, you know? I want to see her carry like cheese. That's just how I was raised, you know? I really didn't know who I really was till I came here. You don't know who you are until you get to the bottom. There have been a lot of people that have been found on the road, passed out, dead, you know, overdosed and things like that. So I have to make sure this guy is away. Sir, 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 Los Angeles Fire Department, you okay? You all right? He's okay, so making sure that you're all right? We're going to move on now. On the level that the camera is at, it will show their operation here. And I don't want to show that, you know, like I said, we're not disrespecting anyone, nothing like that. You know, we just out of respect, you know. They love me over here because I love my salsa music. You know, over here, it's live over here. Baba, how you doing, my man? Everybody good? Hola, mommy. Everything good? Can I have a hug and a kiss?
Hi, mi
Mwah.
I bless you,
Yeah.
Papa.
Thank you. I love you because No. So everything's fine. Don't worry about it. That'll be edited out. How about they gonna cut all that out? That's what we talked about. All right. Okay. But got you, Papa. Thank you so much. Thank you, Papa. I haven't put it down. It's on my feet. No. Right. I understand. God bless you, because I love my people. That's what I say. But yeah, we got you, Papa. I won't do that. No, I won't do that. Yeah, you keep it holding down like that. See how they get?
This is where you should have been getting good grades in school, because if you didn't learn anything in school, you're gonna learn nothing out here. You're doomed. They see your weakness, they're gonna prey on that, they're gonna get that. It's not saying that it's dangerous living out here. It could be like, whoa, you know? But they're all human beings, just like you and I.
Sharing the humanity in us all. And you can watch the full documentary Finding Mango to Live and Die on Skid Row on Hulu or Disney+. Coming up, one city's first in the nation plan to use AI for some 911 calls. Will it improve response times or introduce new risks to a vital public safety system? The Emmy-nominated creator of Tiger King is here to tell us about his latest venture, taking us deep into the shadowy world of exotic reptile smuggling. One city is implementing artificial intelligence in its 911 system. The rare collectibles that could be sold for millions, and a skydiver gives himself a tattoo, all while falling at 120 miles per hour. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. Have a life-threatening emergency? If you dial 911 in New Orleans, you may be answered by artificial intelligence. New Orleans is now the first major U.S. city to publicly acknowledge they are using AI to help answer and triage certain emergency calls. Advocates claim it could reduce the wait time for callers experiencing life-threatening emergencies and reduce dispatcher overload. But critics argue that AI systems could misunderstand callers and fail to recognize critical moments of distress. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is close to acquiring a stake of about 1/3 of the Liverpool Premier League club. If the deal is closed, it would be one of the biggest appraisals ever achieved in a football club deal. The investment would value the club at about $5.9 billion. The investment comes at a time of change for the league, which finished 5th place last season, despite spending more than $400 million on new players. Rare Nintendo cartridges were found inside a box sold to a collectible video game store in Wisconsin. Boxes contain nearly 100 copies of undiscovered versions of Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt. The owner of One Stop Wonders said the person who sold the box claimed Nintendo sold the cartridges to a metal recovery service to be melted down, but they were never destroyed. 3 of the cartridges are set to hit the auction block this month and are expected to sell for millions. Barbie is honoring the legendary I Want to Dance with Somebody singer with a new collectible doll. The Whitney Houston doll will be dressed in the iconic outfit the singer wore for the infamous music video, a purple tank dress with colorful drop earrings. The doll is now available for purchase in Target stores and online. Well, this is an unusual way to get your name in the history books. A Miami tattoo artist set the Guinness World Record for the highest altitude skydive while giving himself a tattoo. The artist, known as Funky Mattis, duct taped the machine to his hand so it didn't fly off while falling 120 miles per hour from 15,000 feet. He tattooed the word "fly" before he reached the ground.
I started looking at it and go, oh my gosh, this is a treasure.
A letter made its way to a man's mailbox decades after it was sent. Bob Shepard's father passed away 6 years ago, and his mother died 2 years later, but their message still reached the son they left behind. Bob Shepard was in awe when he received a postcard in the mail written by his parents 26 years ago while they were on vacation in Copenhagen. The mail carrier said that the postcard likely was lost, then recently found, making its way home after decades. From the creator of Tiger King, a new docuseries takes a look at reptile fanatics who find big money in smuggling rare and exotic lizards into the United States and selling them to zoos across the country. In a new HBO docuseries called Monsters of God, Emmy-nominated filmmaker Eric Goode speaks with quirky yet crafty reptile smugglers and the federal agents who investigated their crimes. Here's a preview.
I'm married to these animals, but I'm most intimate with my king cobra.
What was the fun part? Just getting away with it?
Bro, smuggle some turtles, and then you'll feel the rush.
And Eric joins us now. Thank you so much, Eric, for the time. So reptiles, snakes in particular often get a bad rap. People fear them, but yet you're so fascinated by them. Why?
Well, look, snakes are misunderstood, and they've gotten a bad rap through religion, the book of Genesis, I don't know, the Bible, and I think that snakes just aren't like us. We don't, mammals breastfeed and that we can relate to them, and they have 4 legs usually, a chimp. Snakes have no legs. They don't nurture their young. They're a very different creature, but they're vilified wrongly. They're really important animals in the ecosystem, and we should love snakes.
And so you really capture audience's attention in the first few minutes, in particular with the death-defying encounters that we see, these venomous, dangerous snakes and lizards as well. What would you say are the good elements that attract you to a project? Because obviously you had that mojo and the timing in particular during COVID, where we became so fascinated by the Tiger King. What made you decide, snakes, lizards, that's going to be my next project?
You really need to find a story, and you need to find interesting characters along the way to tell that story. And so this one was more challenging, Monsters of God, because it took me, of course, over 10 years to make it. But of course, there were things that got in the way, like Tiger King. And I had to go much deeper into sort of investigative journalist kind of work to tell the story. But it's really about the story, and then in that story, I try to entertain people, and at the end, hopefully educate them about reptiles.
What would you say fuels the underground exotic trade?
I think it's a combination of things. Obviously, money. Wanting something that nobody else has. When something's very rare, people want it. It's like saying, I drive a Rolls Royce and not a Toyota. I have this endangered reptile. It's like the pathology of people that collect, contemporary art. I have a Jean-Michel Basquiat and Andy Warhol, and you don't. I have this rare reptile.
In the first episode, you interviewed 2 people who are well-known smugglers in this industry, and I'm curious if they expressed any remorse for their actions.
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Yeah, some of them do. It's sort of they're a product of their environment. They found themselves having that role in life, being a reptile dealer. They might have just as easily been a reptile curator at a zoo or something else involved with reptiles. But I think we just sometimes are a product of our environment. And I did interview some people that really were saddened by the sort of the casualties along the way selling reptiles. Any
close encounters? Any crazy stories that you've personally witnessed?
Oh, wow. In the making of Monsters of God, no one got bitten by a venomous snake. No one got killed. I think, as I said earlier, we're more fearful of the people than the reptiles. And there were many moments where my nerves were, at a very high place.
Erica, thank you so much for the time and conversation. You can watch the first episode of his new docuseries, Monsters of God, on HBO now. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.